Though, on the bright side, I suppose at my age, there's no point in thinking about recent things anyways. You mostly want to joke about the good old days, reminiscing about all the brightest hours and the wildest moments of your journey on this earth before it eventually comes to an end, as all things do. I feel nothing but peace and acceptance at the thought of what awaits me at the end of my time. After all, when you are 60 in this world, you're considered to have lived a long and good life. On top of that, it is said that when you have been married for 40 years, you must have led a fulfilling life. By this standard, I should have no regrets. After all, Madeline and I had a wonderful, loving marriage for decades. We even had a child together, who brought meaning and joy beyond all imagination into our life, despite the fact that she died in the plague a long time ago. Or maybe not even that long ago. I can't be certain. Unfortunately, the clearest memories I retain are of things that happened in my teens and the first part of my adulthood, but the rest gets murky, including the time after Mirabelle's birth. I stretch my arms, sighing contentedly at the pull of my cramped muscles, and almost knock a cup over on the table next to me. Oh, there's my cup of tea that I have yet to finish. I pick it up delightedly and take another sip of tea, indulging in the memories that are rushing into my head. Drinking tea always reminded me of my father. He loved tea more than anyone I ever knew. Drinking tea always reminds me of my father. He loved tea more than anyone I ever knew. Being born in rural Memoria, in the corners of the empire where tea was aplenty and cheap, did not help his tea drinking habits. There was hardly ever a day, no matter how busy father was, where he would skip his usual evening routine of reading in his armchair, his trusty teacup in his other hand. Come to think of it, father was probably the biggest influence and reason behind my adoration for tea as an adult. I remember when I was a child, father would often take me to pluck tea leaves at our plantation. It was great fun. We would even turn it into a competition to see who could gather more leaves, and father would always let me win, which I didn't realize until I was older. At the time, I didn't understand why mother would always laugh and share a secret smile with my father when I celebrated in triumph after every round of competition, but now I do. Regardless, those contests were some of my best childhood memories. Sometimes, even Madeline joined in. She was our neighbor, coming from a poor farming family like us, but they led a much tougher life, barely making ends meet. We often played together as children, even though, I suddenly lose my train of thought. Fighting the fogginess in my brain, I try to resume my internal musing. Oh, right. Our families naturally became good friends since we lived next to each other, and seeing their struggles, my family would frequently lend them money, especially during the difficult months, when they couldn't even afford food. Perhaps this would discourage adults from becoming too close, deteriorated by an ill sense of shame or pride, but as children, we never let these things affect us. Perhaps this would discourage adults from becoming too close, deterred by an ill sense of shame or pride, but as children, we never let these things affect us. Madeline and I spent most of our free time together, making up games to entertain ourselves and getting each other into trouble. We were almost an inseparable pair of best friends. That's so sweet, aw. Eventually, as we grew up and started viewing each other as more than just the annoying friend who happened to live next door, love blossomed between us. After a period of courting, I proposed to her on a summer day, in the very same fields where we first met. Oh, that's so sweet. We got married in a small ceremony, nothing grand, but still beautiful in its simple way. Afterwards, when faced with the choice of moving into a bigger town for a chance at better jobs or staying behind in Memoria, we decided on the latter to take care of our aging parents. In the end, it turned out to be the wiser decision. When our parents passed away, we inherited both their farms, and merging it together, which was more than enough to sustain our living and make up for the financial opportunities we missed out on by choosing to stay in Memoria. Compared to most rural folks, we had it easy. Mirabelle, our baby girl, was born in the wee hours of a new year. She was bright and beautiful, with a bubbly laugh and always a spring in her steps. Yet, just as she had begun going to school and was aspiring to be a princess, tragedy struck. The cruel heavens brought down a plague upon the town, taking the lives of many. Mirabelle was one of the first to fall ill. It was a sickness that no physician could cure, and despite us even traveling far and inviting the best physicians, Mirabelle never recovered. Mirabelle passed away in our arms one night as we wept, shaking with devastation and disbelief. We buried her with her favorite toys and sang her favorite lullaby as our neighbors came to help bury her body. A great number of people in town dropped by to pay their respects and give their condolences. Everyone in Memoria had loved Mirabelle. There was a dark period after Mirabelle's passing where we seemed to drown in grief and could not surface. Our baby girl was gone. How could we live on? But life continued for us. We lived on. Eventually, we learned to pick up the pieces. Eventually, we learned to pick up the pieces. We then started to make regular donations to families who needed the money so that they could send their children to school or get out of debt. Of course, we have since retired and can no longer afford to do so. But for a while there, bringing joy to other families and their children kept us going. In the end, even when we thought we couldn't, we survived and got past Mirabelle's untimely death. But the wounds never fully healed. Madeline and I clung to each other even more, taking care of each other until the day we will be reunited with Mirabelle. We are always here. I will wait for you. We are family. I smile and finish my tea, setting it aside. Overwhelmed by a sudden, unexplainable sense of exhaustion, I can't resist the urge to close my eyes. Madeline should be back soon from wherever she went. I'll rest until she returns. I hope Madeline will not be angry with me for sleeping before dinner. I can't really explain why, but I feel like sleeping more these days. My mother's last days flash across my mind with startling clarity. She also liked to sit in the same chair that I am in right now, just watching the fireplace crackle and burn until sleep would pull her under. One night, she went to sleep after saying goodnight to all of us, and never woke up. She passed away peacefully in her sleep, a faint smile still on her face. My eyes are getting heavier now. Darkness envelops me, and I welcome it. I force my eyes open groggily. A strange, inexplicable feeling washes over me. Is this a dream? I look down at my hands impulsively. Maybe it is just my wishful thinking, but they look less wrinkled. I turn towards the window to check the weather and spot a figure in the distance. A very familiar laughter rings out clearly, filling me with a sense of warmth and happiness. The loud jingling of keys brings a smile to my face as I reach out to the figure in impatience. All of a sudden, the light around me dims drastically, causing me to yelp in surprise. Knock, knock. I jerk up in a sitting position, gasping. My eyes fly open to their own accord, darting around the room in confusion. Were they closed? I could have sworn I was just looking out the window a moment ago. Was that only my imagination? I rub the sleepiness from my eyes and get to my feet unsteadily. This time, when I look out the window, the faint silhouette is gone. There's only a fiery sun hanging in the blue sky without a single dreary cloud for miles. I suppose I really was dreaming. However, I can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. I swept my gaze around the room. Is there something missing? No, more like someone. Who? Oh. My attempts at recollection are interrupted by a rapid knocking at the door. I frown in surprise. Is it a guest? I don't remember inviting anyone over. Maybe it's a business associate. Or maybe it is Madeline's father coming to return us the money? Dipping my hand in the water in the sink, I quickly try to smooth down some of the bits of hair that are sticking out in wild directions to make myself seem more presentable before moving to open the door.